So after a couple of years working there, I knew that the exercises worked because people did get better, but there was a point where there was people who were a little bit more complicated in terms of their presentation of their structural issues. And that's where I got boggled down in terms of understanding what to do, because from session to session, I didn't know how they changed. So if their pain wasn't going away, I had no way of explaining to them whether they were going in the right direction. Because at that point, I could say, well, your posture looks a lot better. And they would look at me and say, I don't care, I'm still in pain. And so I had no way of quantifying their process or their progress in terms of the process. So I was young and dumb. I was 27, 28 years old, recently married, and said, hey, you know what, I can do this myself. So I started Symmetry in 1997, and I don't regret it for any means, but boy, when you're young and dumb, you do a lot of things that you probably should really sit down and think about first. Unless you have a plan, Phaedra, okay? So I started Symmetry, and I started Symmetry thinking that I could rule the world, you know. And so basically what I did is I took the tools that I had and I started my own business in Del Mar on 11th Street, corner of 11th and Camino Del Mar. I'll never forget it. Right there was on the bottom. You'd walk down the steps and we had a nice little suite down there. And that's where it started. It was soon after where I finally understood what was missing in terms of this process. And the first missing link was introduced to me by a guy by the name of Jeff Gluckman. Jeff Gluckman owns a company called Muscle Balance and Function. I don't know if he owns it still, but he was an a therapist at this clinic that I worked at as well. And he had branched off, along with a bunch of other people, to do their own thing. But he had a seminar series that put the body into an explanation of what we now know as planes of motion, right? So everything that I do is based upon this picture. How many of you here have kids? Okay. How many of you here want kids? I have 2 that I'm willing to give up. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. They're beautiful kids. Love them to death. Children really represent, and this was the missing link, because what Jeff presented was this. It was this picture here, which is planes of motion. The reality is that we're nothing but a structure, right? So if an engineer was to design your car, or if an architect was to design this building, there are certain fundamental principles that they have to abide by in order to create a well-balanced or well-functioning structure, correct? So if it's your car, what are the assumptions we can make? By the way, this is what I call a active participating seminar. I don't want to just hear myself talk all the time. So I'm going to frequently ask questions, and even if you give me the wrong answers, I won't laugh at you, I promise. What can we assume about your car that you drove in here today?
It got me here, therefore it's running and working.
Okay, so you assume that it's functioning correctly, right? What else can we assume from it? Talk about the structure of your car. What can we assume about your car in terms of its design?
Safe.
Okay, so it's solid.
Okay, solid.
What else?
Tires have equal balance.
So the tires are all the same size, right? You don't really think about it, do you? You just assume the tires are all the same size. But they have to be, don't they? Right? What about the alignment of the car?
Yes. It has to be in a line.
Right? It has to be in a line going in the right direction so that the tires can rotate equally, correct? That's called efficient motion. What about this room? What can we assume that the architects knew when they built this hotel?
The structure.
What about it?
Foundation.
What about the foundation?
Solid.
It's solid. What else?
Level.
It's level, right? So that the walls can be what to the foundation?
Vertical.
So they can be vertical or at right angles to the foundation. What are we talking about here?
Fall.
What are we talking about here?
Gravity.
Gravity, right? We all know it. We all experience it.